New questions this morning about President Trump's health after he made a sudden, unannounced, unscheduled visit to Walter Reed Medical Center over the weekend. Now, the White House says it was regular testing as part of his annual physical, but a source tells CNN the visit did not follow the usual protocol for a routine presidential exam. CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, is live with us. So, Sanjay, what do you see here?
Well, I mean, the fact that it did not fit protocol, follow protocol, not only from previous administrations, but from this administration. In the past, the White House did alert people that the president was going to have a physical exam. It was planned. As you might imagine, it's a big deal for the president to show up at the hospital. Doesn't sound like everyone at the hospital knew about this. So there were several protocols that were broken here. Also, this idea that he went in for the first phase of a physical exam, that's very typically not how it's done. In fact, many of the things that they said he had done at Walter Reed, a physical exam, basic lab work, I think was the quote, that can be done at the White House as well. So it does sort of raise this question, what was necessary at Walter Reed that couldn't be done at the White House? Why was it being done a few months early? Stephanie Grisham, who's the president's spokesperson, has said very clearly, look, this wasn't due to any new symptoms the president was having. But I think any medical person, that would be the first question they would ask. Patient shows up, somewhat of an unannounced surprise visit to the hospital. What's going on? What prompted this visit? We don't know the answer to that. We may never know the answer to that. There's no requirement that the president, the White House, disclose that information. So we may never know. But it is really odd, in terms of how this unfolded.
I mean, it's really odd. It's alarming not to have any transparency in terms of the president's health right now. This is a presidential campaign, may I remind everybody. I mean, we all remember when Hillary Clinton, I remember she tripped on a stair or something. And for the next months, there were all sorts of people, certainly in right-wing media, that were saying that she had all sorts of ailments and maladies, and why isn't she being more transparent? This is the president of the United States. I mean, right. Sanjay, you're saying there's no requirement for him to explain his health, but there's certainly an expectation that presidents tell voters.
And no question. That expectation has been around for some time, really since Paul Tsongas in the 90s, someone who was running for president, subsequently found to have a form of cancer, that could have been a problem for him had he been elected president. Really, since that time, there has been this habit of presidents being more forthright about their medical records. Although I will say, look, I don't think anyone's been perfect on this. Typically, what you get is a one-pager, something like that. It's sort of a summary, as opposed to complete medical records. The unusual part here is that there was just no advance notice. All of a sudden, on a Saturday, the president goes to Walter Reed. Who knew at Walter Reed? What were the tests that were done there? Why did they need to be done there? That's a big question. I mean, we know a little bit about this president's health history, right? From previous exams, we know his weight, we know his height, we know the things that are typically done. But we also know that he has he takes a medication to lower his cholesterol. We know he has a form of heart disease based on previous scans. Were those tests repeated? Was that because they needed to be repeated? Again, there's a lot of question marks here. And not many answers.
We may never know, as you pointed out. Another big story this morning, potentially, Sanjay. The Washington Post broke it, and then the Times and the Journal both matched it, that the administration is reportedly delaying, if not just stepping back completely, from the proposed ban on flavored vaping products. What's going on here?
Well, it's interesting, and this doesn't surprise people that much because a couple of months ago, you may remember, the president basically said he was planning this ban on flavorings of e-cigarettes. And then we hadn't heard much since then at all. Last week, we reached out to many organizations that would be involved with discussions around this sort of ban, the Vaping Association, medical professionals, and all those folks had said, look, we haven't heard anything. No one's contacted us, no one's called us, so there has been no movement here at all. So that doesn't surprise me that much that now we're hearing the president maybe is changing his mind. We did reach out to the White House, I want to point out, John, on this, and to get their sort of reflections on that. Here's what they said specifically. They say President Trump and the administration are committed to responsibly protecting the health of children. At this time, we are in an ongoing rule-making process and will not speculate on the final outcome. Look, I mean, the fact that there's a rulemaking process still going on, that suggests that maybe there is still going to be some activity. We don't know. But John, one thing I do want to point out, and you and I have talked about this at length, there are two separate issues that we're talking about with regard to vaping. One is these illnesses and these deaths that we have heard about, and that's almost certainly linked to these THC cartridges, typically these illicit THC cartridges. People are vaping in something that is obviously causing them illness and even death. What the flavoring ban was about was really about are these flavors enticing young people to start vaping, and that's what this whole rulemaking process is about, and obviously we're going to have to see how that plays out.
Okay, Sanjay, thank you.